I'm looking in her eyes and thinking, wow, this is really amazing that we are connected and I have a family. I got up the next day going, I have a sister.
Yes.
I have a brother.
Welcome to Finding Family DNA, the show about finding and connecting birth families with LA Morning News anchor Chris Schaubel and Jay Rosenzweig, founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. And now, here's Chris and Jay.
Hi, everyone. You're watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. I'm Chris Schaubel, a local TV news anchor in Los Angeles. Who are you, buddy?
I'm Jay Rosenzweig, founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. And it's been a great ride with you, Chris, for episode 13 now.
Yes, pretty cool. Who do we have today? Because she's in studio.
We are lucky. We have Lori Quinn. Lori Quinn, originally from Minnesota, moved to Los Angeles. And again, Chris, it's because of your story and you being on the news that she found out about my company and hired my company to find both sides of her birth family. And it was a closed adoption.
I love all of that. So as we get ready to talk to Lori about her journey, let's just start from the beginning. So tell me how it was she came to you told me it's because of my story a little more than 10 years ago on KTLA where I found my birth family, both sides. Tell me what happened after that.
Okay, so she contacted our company, and she had no information whatsoever. She took a DNA test with Ancestry, and wasn't that difficult. We found a niece on one side of the family, and we connected her first to her maternal side of the family. Mm-hmm. It was real easy.
Like in a matter of minutes, a day, once you had the DNA information?
Yeah, a few days. But here's the thing. She was told by her mother, and both her parents are deceased. Mm-hmm. She was born in 1959. We actually assumed that both of her birth parents were deceased also. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for relatives. So what happened was she was told by her mother the name of the supposed birth father.
Gotcha.
So we're looking through the DNA, and of course, I used Misty Gillis, my renowned genealogist, who's unbelievable. And she said, and the guy's name was
Jack Smith.
Jack Smith. Okay, so there's no Jack Smith in the DNA.
Are you serious?
No Jack Smith. So, and Lori will talk about that in a minute.
Sounds like in the United States of America, there's probably like 2 million Jack Smiths.
Right, and Jackie.
Yeah. It's just a lot.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking that's such a common name. So Misty's looking. Jay, there's no Jack Smith. We got to start from scratch and find out who this birth father is. So, took her no time at all. She figured out, I'm not going to mention the name.
What about Misty?
Misty Gillis figured it out, and it didn't take her long. He said, I need your help on this. She goes, we got this. These are the relatives. We're going to put you in. Jay, go ahead and contact this person, cousin. So we contacted the cousin, and we got in contact with Lori's half-sister.
Nice.
And the rest is history, because she got in contact with both sides of the family, and it was just beautiful.
So what is the half-sister on the paternal side's name?
Her name is Kathleen.
Kathleen. So you get this information, right? You got the maternal side. You get the birth paternal side. You bring all of this to Lori, and then what do you decide to do with this information?
Well, Jay had said, you never know what's going to happen. Are you ready? And I said, yeah, good or bad. Absolutely. So almost immediately, because it was within 24 hours that he had found my mother.
And what year was this?
This was months ago.
It was the end of 2023.
Was
gotcha.
it? Yeah, you're right. You're right. The end of 2023.
End of 2023.
Right,
okay.
Right. And it was, I was amazed. I was shocked. It was surreal. Mm-hmm. And immediately I just thought, well, let's find out some things. I've always wondered, why do I like to sing? Why do I want to be artistic? What I want to look in your eyes and see somebody that I'm connected with. I've never done that in my life. And went forward, and it was amazing. It was amazing that I just wanted to get a hold of somebody somewhere, didn't have to make good friends or anything with them. I just wanted to know so much about my background that I didn't know.
And the first person that you decided to connect, I don't know, I guess it was it the only person at the time was Kathleen? Was she the only person at that time you were available to connect her, Lori with, or were there others, but you decided to go with Kathleen?
I wanted to connect Lori to the closest living relative.
Which was half-sister
That's her
Kathleen on
half-sister
her
Kathleen
paternal
on her
side.
paternal side.
And then when you reached out before, we're going to show a clip, by the way, but before we do, when you reached out to Kathleen, how receptive was she?
Extremely.
Did she know Lori was out there?
That side of the family did not know whatsoever, had no clue.
But yet the maternal side did know.
They did.
Because the mother had shared, I gave up a child.
And Laura will talk about this later, but the brother that we found knew that his mother had a child.
Wow.
And he remembers her going to the hospital, and she'll talk about that.
Wow, that's pretty deep. All right, let's go back to, you've made the connection, both sides. Kathleen is the one. We have a bit of that. It wasn't a FaceTime, it was a Zoom.
It was a Zoom.
It was a Zoom and how it went. So let's go ahead and show that.
When I called you, you obviously knew this wasn't a scam. We went over the DNA. We saw who the nephew was of your father, and we concluded that it was obviously your father was Lori's birth father.
Right.
How did that make you feel when I called you?
I was happy. I've always wanted a sister, so I was actually glad. I grew up with two brothers picking on me. Now I got a sister.
That's right. No more picking on you.
Yeah. So when you meet them, could you maybe punch them in the arm for me? For when we were younger.
Definitely. You've had this coming for a long time. It's my job.
So you could tell in that soundbite that you were thrilled to meet your half-sister, Kathleen.
Absolutely.
I mean, we got a taste of it there. What did you learn in that Zoom conversation?
That there were a couple of things looking at her and watching her actions and hearing her laugh. It was seeing many of my own traits, which is the first time that's ever happened.
Did you guys look alike to you?
Yes.
I mean, we saw the video, but what do you think?
Yes. There's a total resemblance. Of course, we have, many different features, but I'm looking in her eyes and thinking, wow, this is really amazing that we are connected and I have a family. I got up the next day going, I have a sister.
Yes.
I have a brother. And we didn't find out the other side until later, but I just kept thinking, I have a sister. And there's still days where I'm like, oh yeah, I have a family.
So that's been months. What has it been like since you first communicated over? By the way, where does Kathleen live?
Minnesota.
Okay. So have you met in person?
Yes, a couple of times.
Okay, I love that. And then what is that dynamic like?
Oh, it's great. I asked her, I said, was our dad funny? Because I love humor.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. It gets you through so many things. And she said, oh, so funny. And I said, was he frugal? And she goes, beyond frugal. And I said, me too. I said, are you kidding? And then I said something about I've been in musicals and things. And she goes, oh, he was very musical. He sang and he loved this and she loves to sing. And so we have these, she said, oh, I love wine. I said, I love wine. And there were so many things that we're just really just thrilled to find that we had in common without ever knowing each other or have met. We met at Christmas time a couple of times. We met at a restaurant first, and then she came over to a friend's house and spent the afternoon. And then I was in Minnesota in May and spent the night at her house and just had a wonderful time and went out to a comedy club, and we laughed and ate, and just, it was like how I always pictured it should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to stop you there because we're going to take our first break. But there's so many things that we want to get into. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Lori more about her paternal side and Kathleen and her brother and that relationship and how it's evolving to this day. But also we want to get into the maternal side and see what that situation is like. Have you explained, Jay, what you were able to achieve? And honestly, I want to get into the emotional part of it, the why you decided to go on this journey. I know you saw my story, but I want to hear your why and your reasoning. All of that when Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay and Lori comes right back.
This is Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. If you're looking to find your birth parents or anyone in your birth family, give us a call at 866-572-3463 or go to our website, BirthParentFinder.com.
Welcome back to Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. We're here with Lori Quinn, who's explaining to us how Jay helped her and what she was able to achieve. We just talked about mostly your journey in finding both your maternal and your paternal side and meeting your half-sister Kathleen on your paternal side, your father's side.
Yes.
But I want to know the why behind it, Jay. I mean, I want to know basically what her background, Lori's background is, how she became, put into foster care. It wasn't foster care; it was an orphanage back then.
Yep.
So let's. I'll let you take over because you have some of those details.
Right, Lori, we've spoke before.
Mhm.
We've had this discussion, and back in Minnesota, everything was closed, all the records.
Yep.
And you obviously didn't know who your family was, and you said you were in an orphanage. How long was that for?
I'm not sure. I know that at some point, somebody just took me in and said, take her. Now, I thought it was my mother, but now from talking to my brother Floyd, that it was an older sister that had been taking care of me for whatever reason, because my mother had 5 other children quite a bit older than me, and I was the youngest that she had. And so I'm not quite sure about that. I just remember hearing kind of a story from my adopted mom telling me that they said, nope, can't do it. And so I was in the orphanage for quite a while because they tried to put me in several different homes, and it didn't work because I was pretty traumatized. I'd been through a lot of emotional and physical trauma. And so this couple from southern Minnesota drive up, and they couldn't have children, and drove me all the way back down to southern Minnesota from Hibbing, which is like 5 or 6 hours, maybe more. And I cried the whole way down. I cried the whole weekend. I cried all the way back up, and they went, well, we'll take her.
And how old were you at that time?
I was about 18 months.
Oh, wow.
18, 19 months.
And you're talking about, and you were born in 1959.
Correct.
So it was just a different world of adoption.
Absolutely.
And the whole, everything we know in the common world was different back then.
Yep, way different. Nothing. There was no information. And the reason I knew my last name was Gorman is because I had come across, like when I was about 10 or 12, when my adopted mother was dying, I came across a little piece of paper that was part of my birth certificate. And it said Gorman. And it said born in St. Louis County. And I was in St. Louis County is the biggest county in Minnesota. And then I thought orphanage. So I remember kind of way back then trying to figure out, and there was an orphanage in Hibbing. And I was like, wow. So yeah, they came back up and got me and took me home. I do remember a woman coming from the orphanage and from I suppose social worker coming to see if everything was good and everything was okay. And she sat down in this rocking chair that had the round bottom and flipped over completely. Yeah. I just remember, and my mom said, "Oh my gosh, I knew they were going to take you back."
So you always knew that you were adopted?
Always. I don't remember a time that I didn't know.
What do you? I personally believe that's healthy.
I do too.
That when there's no surprise down the road. How do you feel?
Oh, I think it's great. It's great that I just knew, and I always thought about it in a different way than most people do. I thought, I am special.
Yeah.
I was picked.
Yeah.
I was picked, and I just never thought. I thought, and it made me a little different. I wasn't like everybody else, and good and bad as you get into teenage years. But I just was like, yeah, I'm really special, and I enjoyed it. It didn't bother me at all.
So tell us, you grow up in the Quinn household.
No.
Quinn is okay. That's your
married name.
I'm sorry, I should have known.
That's
that.
okay.
All right. What was your adoptive name?
Botham.
So you grew up in the Botham household. In general, how would you describe it? Did you have any other adopted brothers and sisters?
I did. That person has some really big faults, and I kind of have forgotten about that person in my life for good reasons.
No,
good
you
reasons.
know what? Hey, I actually get it. I mean, not all families have every perfect element. As a matter of fact, I would argue most don't.
Right. He was adopted first, and I came into the home. My father was a farmer. And so we lived out in the middle of nowhere. My mom didn't drive. So a lot of hard work, a lot of taking care of animals. We were chicken farmers with thousands of chickens and cows and every animal you could imagine. And, went to a rural school where I had 12 kids in my class, and you had the same teacher for 2 years because you had 2 classes in the same room. And so it was very sheltered, very, very sheltered. Brought up as a Baptist, went to Baptist camp during the summers and stuff. But I would go up because I always just felt like, I kind of didn't belong, even though I've always had this self-esteem, I didn't belong. And I think I was saved probably 12 times. I would go up and get saved and, and I'd be like, okay, I'm okay now. But very, very isolated in that world. I would watch the Brady Bunch and think, oh my gosh, what wonderful, wonderful life that would be. I'd watch the Partridge Family and all those family shows, and I loved them so much. And I would, have these pretend times where I'd be like, yes, I have 4 sisters, I have 6 brothers, I have these. And now that I've met family, and they really are great people, I'm like, it kind of does exist of what I had thought. But being, on the farm and not having playmates, not having anything like that, I just made up my own world. And it just is, again, so surreal to know that I actually have family. I have people I am connected to and that are really, really interested. I never, cried about it. But I would wonder. I'd be like, wow, I wonder what it's like. I wonder what they're like.
And how was your relationship with your adopted parents?
Pretty good. My dad, wonderful. My dad was wonderful. I worked side by side, picking weeds and picking eggs and doing all that kind of thing. My mother, I believe now had her issues, and it wasn't horrible, but I took care of her until she died when I was 12. And
what'd she die of?
She had cancer.
Oh.
And so you said you were 12 when she passed away?
I was 12 when she passed away.
How'd that impact?
It didn't in a bad way. Because
didn't in a bad way?
No, because it was very. What can I say? She was not your demonstrative, loving person. My dad was, and it was like I remember sitting at the funeral and thinking, okay, now we're starting over again, and I was okay with that. Yeah. I was okay with that.
Tell me about you. Would later through Jay find your biological family, but not soon. I mean, within a matter of years, you started your own family.
I did.
Tell us about that.
I got married a month after I turned 15.
Which was, I think it is legal with permission, depending on the state.
In South Dakota. We had to go to South Dakota.
Oh, okay. Is that where you went? To South Dakota? Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. How'd you meet this boy?
School. That
okay.
Nice little community school. Everybody knows everybody.
Was Dad on board with this? Or you?
Not really.
Okay.
Not.
Did he know?
Oh yeah, he had to go and sign for me. Yes. I was pregnant.
Oh well, there you go.
There you go. And I do not recommend it.
Yeah.
To anyone. If you want me to go speak at schools about birth control, I've got the story for you.
Yeah.
But I had 4 daughters when I was 20.
By the time you were 20, you had 4 daughters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. About, every so many months,
Yeah.
And it really ended up really well, having all girls, because after being married 10 years and one day, I got a divorce and went out on my own. I'd never worked really outside the home. I had done a few things here and there, but with 4 little kids, what are you going to do? And so I just did it. I worked 2-3 jobs. I started acting. Acting changed my life. I auditioned. I'd never been in a theater, and I auditioned, and they said, "Are you Equity?" I don't think so. I don't know what that was. Yeah. And then
explain it, because I don't know what Equity means.
Oh, it's like SAG.
Oh, okay,
gotcha.
Yeah,
it's the union for stage actors.
Okay.
And I'd never been in a theater. I didn't know what an audition was. And long story short, they hired me for 2 shows that summer. And I was in a musical and in a regular, just non-musical show. And it changed my life.
Do you remember about what year that might have been, or the period of time?
Let's see. I was 25 or 26.
So in the 60s, mid to late 60s.
No, 70s.
70s. We're horrible at math. Don't do
Oh,
math.
yeah, don't do math live,
Don't do
ever,
math on
ever.
TV.
So
Let's
you
see,
were born
my-
in 59. It would
My
have been
daughter
early 80s.
was 5. My youngest daughter was 4 or 5. She was born in 80, so about 84.
You
85.
got it right. You're allowed to do math on TV. I'm like the 60s.
No.
Not thinking,
I'm
yeah,
like,
she would have been
wow.
like 11 years old.
I look
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
for my age.
So-
So I auditioned, and people were saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so good! You're not a professional." And so they hired me to run the box office. I worked at McDonald's, got up at 4 in the
And where
morning.
is this?
In Minnesota,
Minnesota.
southern Minnesota, Albert Lee, and then I worked at Shopko and acted at night. My kids basically lived at the theater with me. And then a year after that, I said, I can't live like this anymore because I fed us on $5 a week.
Mm.
And sometimes we didn't have heat in the house and some things. And I just went, you know what? I am not going to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I drove away in my Gremlin with my 4 kids and a basket of clothes and toys. Didn't have a job, didn't have anywhere to go, and ended up really succeeding. I paid off every single bill. I have 4 daughters that have gone to college that are absolutely fabulous people. But it was just the way it was. I didn't feel bad for myself. I wasn't depressed. I just thought, you sing with the kids, you laugh with them, you love them and feed them.
Before you get away from it, okay, so you're in this Gremlin with 4 kids. I want to. Where did you go to? Where did you pick up? I mean, where did you plant your flag?
There was a woman that was involved with the theater, and she'd heard me on the phone speaking to someone, and she came to me and she just said, "Do you need a place to go?" I said, "I do." And she said, "Well, why don't you come out to our farm and stay with us until you get something figured out?"
Nice.
And that's what I did. And then after that, she got me in touch with a woman's shelter place where these people would take you in and help you. And in the meantime, we got the then husband out, and I went back to the house. And like I said, I took over everything and had a very, very wonderful, peaceful life.
Wow.
And then I got married again. But then that was 11 years. And now I'm married to Mr. Quinn. And this one is the third is the charm.
Right, well, there you go.
Fantastic.
And what was the year you came to Los Angeles?
Okay, not going to do math, but it was 16 years ago.
Okay. That's not
So
too
it was
hard
in
to
the
fit.
2000s then.
Like 2008, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I don't
he
know.
got it.
That's
Yeah,
math.
that one I might
Don't
be
ask
able to
me.
do. But is that to continue the acting that's always been a passion of yours?
No, that was and I kept acting, and I became a director, and then I became a casting person in Minneapolis. Again, accidentally worked on many movies and videos and things. And my daughter was having a baby out here, and said she needed me to come right away. I did. The baby didn't come. I lost my job. I looked on Craigslist and said to my husband, "Look at they're hiring property managers in Long Beach." He came to see the baby the day it was born. And he met with them that morning at 6:30 in the morning, got from LAX, went there, walked into the hospital and had a set of keys and said they hired me.
Wow.
And I went, oh my God, what are we going to do?
You're
so,
staying.
So we loaded up the truck and we moved to Beverly.
That's funny. That had to be exciting.
That was and it worked out. We had an acting job the first day we were here on the Queen Mary. Because he had been an actor also. And the next day I got a job with a management company, managing a really great place in Studio City. Didn't know any of the area. So now that I see that, I'm like, wow, that was really good.
Right.
And so it really, really just was one of those things that every single thing fell into place.
Well, we're going to continue. I'm actually really drawn into your story. One of the things that stands out for me is how tough you are. Some of the decisions you made, I think, would break other people. I don't know if they would have the strength, especially with 4 kids in tow. Just so impressive. But you're watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay, and in studio, Lori. We'll be right back. Family Tree Magazine provides information, inspiration, and community for those who want to discover, preserve, and celebrate their roots. Family Tree Magazine covers all areas of potential interest to family history enthusiasts, reaching beyond strict genealogy research to include ethnic heritage, DNA testing, family reunions, oral history, archival preservation, historic travel, and other surprises along the way. Family Tree Magazine provides engaging, easy-to-understand instructions to help genealogy enthusiasts research their past. Whether you're a beginner or a professional, there's something for everyone. Welcome back to Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. And Lori, one of the things that I want to get into before I lose the thought is, was something missing in your life that you wanted to find out about your biological relatives, or was it just a piece of the puzzle? You had lived so much life that you just wanted to finish?
I had thought about it off and on and really didn't know how to go about it. And last year, I, again, accidentally was hired in Ireland to teach and direct some kids for about 7 weeks. And it was magically wonderful. A lot of hard work. Came home and I turned to my husband and I said, I don't know why, but my anxiety's gone. It's gone. And the next day, I went on my Ancestry. And I was looking up this stuff, and I thought, you know, you're of a certain age. Why not find out? Why just do it? The anxiety was gone, of not the anxiety of finding them, but my anxiety of life. And I saw the number, and I went, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So I did an email, and I got a call within a couple hours saying, hi, and this is how it works, and this is what it is. And then I talked to Jay later that day, and I was just very... I would say excited is the word. And I hadn't told anybody.
Because you had information like that
within
fast.
24 hours.
Wow.
Well, but what helps is that you had the last name of your birth mother.
Right.
And when you look at the DNA results, you can connect the trees and see
Right.
where that last name Gorman comes from. And they're all right there.
They're right there because they had DNA in there too. The niece did. And then Jay said, are you ready? And he sent me the obituary of my mother and then called me and had my niece and my youngest daughter sitting there, and she's taking notes like she didn't know what was going on. I said, just write this down. So she took notes like crazy on her phone. And I was finding out all these things. And she said, and this is our ethnicity, and this is, you know, where we live. And I was just trying to take it all in. And thank God she was taking those notes. Because you just get so overwhelmed with the emotion and the feeling of, oh. And then my husband walks in. I said, hey, I've got some news.
Huh.
And he said, what? And, before I'd been, I'm going to Ireland. And this time it's like, I found my mother. And he went, what? And so I told him, this is what I did. I had been saving up for us to go to Ireland. And I just said, it's worth it so much to do this, make a decision and do this. And the whole family, my kids were in shock. My daughters were in shock. My friends were like, you what? You what? And there's still there are many of them that still don't even know, because I just didn't put a big announcement out there. But they're just thrilled for me. I'm thrilled for me. My husband has met my brother Floyd and Kathleen, and he was like, wow. Because being an anxious person, I want to do things the right way. I follow rules. I do this kind of thing. And I came home and I was just, I would say relaxed for me of, wow, let's just do it.
Well done. So you keep mentioning your paternal side, Kathleen, and what was your brother's name?
Floyd is on the other side.
Oh, he's on the maternal side.
Yes.
That's the side I wanted to kind of dig into. Mm-hmm. You actually found them first or second?
I found the maternal side first. Because remember, we had Jack White as
that's right.
the paternal side.
So help me understand, what is that side related? Who did you find on that side, and what is that relationship like? Or did you have a Zoom with them? I want to know all of it.
No, hadn't had a Zoom with them. I met Floyd at Christmas time. I talked to him on the phone. He called me. Oh, this was so great. He called me after I'd spoken to him the first time for about 10 minutes because we were both kind of nervous and didn't know what to ask or say.
And that's a connection Jay provided.
Yes.
All right.
And he called me one morning and said, hi, little sis. That was the first time I wanted to cry. I was like, oh, my God. I didn't even know what to say. Yeah. And we talked again for probably about 10 to 15 minutes. And, he's such a nice man. I was just like, this is so great. So on that side, there are 5 siblings. 2 have died. 2 have died? Yes. See, again, there's so many facts,
And
so
I
many
remember
things.
talking to Floyd on the phone. He told me who's alive, who's deceased.
Right. And then I have a sister that's in a home for mentally handicapped. She doesn't know, and she's in her 80s. I have another sister that does know. My niece had told her, and she said, "No, I've got so many things. I'm not interested." I don't even take that as a negative. I am so happy that she is. That's totally fine. Totally
Same thing
fine.
happened to me. One from each side of, my mom's side really engaged, and one on my dad's side really engaged.
Yes.
Along with my mother, my dad was deceased. Talking bio family. So that's not unusual.
Right.
And then one, like a half sister on my dad's side, one nothing to do with it.
Yep.
Even though when I went to go visit my half brother, she was in town, just didn't care.
Yep.
Because the way they came together was controversial, broke
Right.
up two families,
Yep.
so that they could be together.
Yep.
And so she just did, as far as she's concerned, I wasn't the product of a relationship that she approved of.
Right.
And so it doesn't change the biology of it,
Right.
but it changes the emotional component. But I don't take it personal. I'm with you. I waited 40-something years to connect. So for you, and probably a similar timeline for you, so I was just really curious. So now that you have both sides, what is your big picture view of your decision to go down that road?
It's the big picture is to continue with the relationships. Absolutely. Find out more, spend more time together. Kathleen and I have a brother, David, who lives basically in Florida, kind of in Wisconsin sometimes too, and is very, very busy. He and I spoke for about an hour once.
Okay.
And he said his daughter is so excited and had looked up my Instagram and said, "Oh my gosh, doesn't she look like so-and-so, and doesn't she look like this person?" And so I'm very excited to get to know them because he has two children. And then when they're back in Wisconsin, I'll probably go to Minnesota and we'll meet in between someplace, or maybe at Kathleen's in Minnesota. And Floyd, what a lovely, lovely man. His wife, and I met his two daughters, and he has a son. I haven't met him yet. But we spent a whole afternoon together.
wow.
They brought pictures, just overwhelming. That I was, who is it? Oh, and that's my brother, Bill. Bill had died. And this is Sandy. And this is, and I'm like, okay, get their names right. Get their
Yeah.
names right. So and then he would, tell me things. And I am a self-taught artist and painter. He is a self-taught artist painter. And we paint almost the exact kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
They're very different, but I was like, you what? He goes, yeah, I in my 30s picked it up. Well, I was in my 50s. My husband just bought me some paints. I sat down, started painting, and now I have I've sold many, and I have 300 paintings in my house, and paint all the time. And he and I talked about it, and it being therapeutic and it being creative, and it's like, wow, that I love knowing that. I love hearing that. And then I asked about our mom too. I said, does she have a sense of humor? He said, oh man, kind of dark, and yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Now I know why I'm this way.
Both of correct, help me understand. Your adoptive mother died when you were 12.
Yes.
Was your adoptive father still alive?
Yes. He died when I was about 32.
So
he
when you
was-
went on this journey of discovery of your bio parents, they were both deceased.
Correct.
What do you
That is
think they
correct.
would have thought of it? I know I'm asking you to project because it's hard to know.
Yeah.
Do you think they would have been like, it's time, you do your thing? My dad was deceased. My mom was very supportive in my effort. What do you think your adoptive parents would have felt? And are you
Yeah.
glad they didn't get a chance so that you never had to hurt their feelings?
I don't think it would have hurt their feelings. I don't think so
that's
at all.
good.
Yeah, because I had this still have it, interesting personality that they're probably wondering also,
Yeah.
who is this?
Yeah.
My dad purchased a little rug so I wouldn't wear out the carpet dancing in front of the TV, watching like Donnie and Marie and Lawrence Welk. And yes, I'm telling you how old I am. And I loved it. And I just knew I was going to be a star. And I would living room skate. I knew I was going to be Olympian. I was going to be a skater. Yes. And our living room was maybe about as big as this room. So keep in mind that I was always on, always singing, doing that type of thing. And I'm sure they would have said, you know what, this is probably a good thing.
And then how did your 4 daughters take it? And I mean this, how did your husband and 4 daughters take it?
They were thrilled, and in shock. My oldest daughter, who is 49, she said the least. She was like, what did you do? My other 2 daughters were just, what? And so then I would get texts from them for the next couple of days. Well, what about this? And what about this? And who this? And, because these are aunts and uncles to them.
Yeah.
And, they've had their family that they know, but it's been very interesting. My youngest daughter was with to meet Kathleen to meet Floyd, and spent the afternoon with them, and she was thrilled. They're just thrilled, and they ask me all the time. They're like, "Have you talked to Kathleen? Have you talked to Floyd?"
So your story is very special because everyone's all in.
All in.
Everybody, both sides of the family, your kids, your husband.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen that way.
Right. Yeah, I've heard some horror stories from people, and I really didn't. When you said, "Are you ready for this?" and "What if it's this?" and "What if it's this?" I truly meant it. That I will embrace whatever it is. When we thought it was Jack Smith and that he had been in prison, I was like, well, now that's interesting. Wow, let's figure out the background and how that happened and why he was in prison. And then when you called and said, guess what? That's not your dad. I was kind of like, oh, good. Okay.
And Jack Smith died in prison.
He died in
so
prison.
Like,
he was beaten to death.
Thank goodness.
A difference. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So what would be, before we go, what would be your advice to anyone else? First of all, your shoes are so unique. I don't think it's possible to say what advice would you give to someone in your shoes. Your shoes are, everyone's got a story. Yours is about as unique as it gets in terms of your background, all that you went through at a very young age. Not a lot of people could thrive with that kind of those challenges. I mean, the kids are a blessing, but they were a challenge. At that age, definitely a challenge. They were a challenge at any age, but to be that young and doing it. So what is your message to someone else who may be saying, they're seeing this, they're like, I don't know if I want to go find my parents, my birth parents. What is your message to that person?
I say, do it. Just do it. Because if it isn't what you dreamt it was going to be, at least now you know some truths about yourself, where you came from. I thought all my life I was Swedish. I was 100% Swedish. That's what my mom had told me. I'm Finnish, French, and German.
Wow.
And I was just like, and that was almost more emotional for me than all the other stuff. And I got out a map and I got out the ancestry and looked at it and went, this is where I came from. This is who I am and why I'm the way I am also, not just traits, And it was unbelievable. And even if it's not a happy ending, you know that you are who you are for many, many reasons. And a lot of it is your environment.
Right.
And some of it's what you were born with.
Yeah, genetic.
And you just don't know. So I say, do it. Do it today, do it tomorrow, and embrace it.
Bravo. Lori Quinn, thank you for joining us in studio today. It's always nice when we have someone in. It's such a it's such a warmer feeling because you can really connect with the person, and we appreciate you coming in. We always enjoy our Zoom guests, no doubt, but in person is pretty amazing. You've been watching Finding Family DNA with Chris and Jay. And by the way, what are we about to do next?
We're going to go into our Patreon segment for our Patreon subscribers, and we're going to talk about Lori's medical history that was really crucial in finding her family, and we'll get into it on Patreon.
If you want exclusive bonus segments of these episodes, join our Patreon at patreon.com/findingfamilydna. And if you are looking to start the journey of finding your family DNA, just go to birthparentfinder.com. Thank you for joining us on Finding Family DNA.
What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and